What up, YouTube? This is Steven, and I have some news for you guys regarding Miss Ayumi Hamasaki that I would like to share. I retrieved this news from jpopasia.com, so shout out to them. The title of this article is Ayumi Hamasaki Goes Nude for La Perla. And when I read the title, I was like, whoa, Ayumi's posing nude? Are you serious? Like, whoa. Like, I didn't really expect that. And then I was like, on the other hand, I was like, this seems a little desperate, you know? Ayum's coming off as a little bit desperate here because I've heard of La Perla through Ayumi Hamasaki's Instagram account, and I also did coverage of Ayumi Hamasaki's limited edition Instagram account. I did 3 separate videos where I went through each of her posts and gave my thoughts and opinions on the photos that she posted. And I noticed that she often referenced La Perla and a few of those posts. And also La Perla is like they designed or La Perla designed at least some of the outfits that Ayumi wears on her latest tour. So I'm like, okay, things are kind of falling into place now because she's doing all this referencing and shouting them out so much, but now she's working with them. I don't know if this was all planned or it just came about sort of organically, but whatever, right? It doesn't really matter. But yeah, she's going to be posing nude for La Perla. I'm like, whoa, like. But then again, isn't this like a fashion line though? So So where's the fashion at if you pose nude though? You know. Usually when people pose nude, usually oftentimes it's in a sexual way, but as well it could be in an artistic way too. But here, since it's about fashion, it seems like they would kind of miss the mark if she was going completely nude. Since what are you wearing, right? Unless she's going to be wearing like maybe a necklace, but then it's not a jewelry line. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's not about jewelry. Um, or if she was wearing maybe, I guess, some heels. But yeah, I think that so far, possibly missing the mark here with this new photo shoot. As well, I think that this sort of makes Ayumi look a bit desperate because, like I said, I went through her Instagram account and I noticed that she was like doing a lot of like posting a lot of pictures that were like really provocative, really sexual. It seems like Ayumi really wants to be like this, sexual woman, this sex pot or sex bomb type of woman, you know. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se. To want to be seen as sexy, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But I think that she's going about it the wrong way, at least from what I've seen from her Instagram account. Some of the photos that she posted sort of made her look a bit more like a little trashy a little bit. I know there was one photo that, she had her legs spread eagle and she was wearing a dress. And I'm like, the thing is, when you do that and you're wearing a dress, it comes off as trashy. If she was like, I said it in the post as well, but again, you kind of have to work with what you got, and I think Ayumi needs to sort of learn about that. But here, I don't think she's doing it more so in a sexual way, which I think is a good thing. Me personally, I don't view Ayumi Hamasaki as sexual per se. I think that more so Koto Kumi could do it in a sexual way and be successful at the photo, but I don't think Ayumi could do that. But let's move on to the next part of this article. In the photograph, Ayumi's breasts are tastefully exposed and covered by her slender arms. So, it's kind of like, going nude, but you covering up. So she is technically nude, but it's not like full frontal nude. Here I am, look. Take a look. Let's see. The singer's eyes are covered by a lace blindfold. So she's like nude, but then her eyes are covered by a lace blindfold. So perhaps she's trying to go for some type of like sexual thing as well with the blindfold. So I think that she is trying to be sexual. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Except for I just feel like Ayumi should sort of just kind of like find, kind of like work with what she has. Um, but also I feel like this is a bit desperate on Ayumi's part because I feel like she's doing this to stay relevant and to get attention, you know. And I don't want Ayumi to go out like that. But I feel like Ayumi is kind of going out like that, where Ayumi is doing any and everything to get some attention and to, you know, attempt to stay relevant. Like just doing anything to just try to stay relevant. And I don't think that Ayumi, at this point in her career, and as much as she has been able to accomplish, and as many barriers that she broke down, and you know the path that she's paved for not only herself but other people as well, I don't think she should be doing this. You know, I know her records ain't selling like they used to sell, but Ayumi does have like a really good, strong musical legacy to fall back on. You know, like she is like the best-selling solo artist in Japan, like in Japanese music history. You know, she has like the most number one hits of a female artist. You know, her records have sold like so many copies. You know, she has so many million selling albums and singles, you know? So it just seems like she's like this is something that like other people should be doing. You know, like the other types, like maybe the up and coming types are like the people who are on the down slope. I guess Ayumi would be on the down slope. But I think it's a bit different for Ayumi just because of what I mentioned before. It's like, you know, she has so much more to fall back on and more to offer where she doesn't really have to go this route, you know, to keep her career alive and to stay relevant. Um, but then again, this while this does come off as, desperation to stay relevant, this could be Ayumi's way of trying to sort of possibly maybe change her image or kind of like retool her image to try to kind of do something and have like someone more of a sexual look because Ayumi I don't think is really associated with like sexiness like other female artists are, which I think is a good thing because then people are more so gravitating toward you for your music and your lyrics versus your look. But it kind of seems like Ayumi is like somewhat of like a midlife crisis, but I don't think she's not middle aged just yet. So it's like a pre midlife crisis. So it's a little disheartening and sad to see Ayumi in this way. um, let's see. Next, La Perla is a luxury Italian brand that specializes in lingerie, accessories, and loungewear. On February 5th, the brand opened a flagship store in Tokyo. The same day, Ayumi announced their collaboration. So yeah, La Perla is very smart for doing this. Granted, they could have chosen a more relevant star to do this, but then again, it was just like, well, we got Ayumi, and she does. While she is not the most relevant person at the moment, in the big scheme of things, she is still relevant. You know. Let's see. More details about the collaboration will be released at a later date, and that's the end of the article. Um, But yeah, it's a bit strange to hear about this Ayumi going nude. And really, Ayumi, while this like she could go nude on her own. Really, she doesn't have to use La Perla or any other organization to go nude. Really, what Ayumi could do is probably release a book of nude her like nude photo shoots and nude photos of herself if she really wanted to do that. Um, but I think here is sort of good for her because she probably doesn't want to do like a whole book of nudes, like say Tomomi Kahara did back in the day. Um, but rather Ayumi could just use this opportunity to just kind of like try it out. Try it out, see how it goes. See how people respond. And I feel like people might just end up ignoring this, like they've been ignoring Ayumi for a while now, which would kind of suck because, like, hey, like I'm literally, just showing you everything, and you ain't checking for it. So that may kind of hurt Ayumi a little bit, It might hurt her, femininity or her female pride, so to speak. Like I released a new photo, it ain't no one want to look at it. Like I think some females might feel a certain way if that happened to them. Maybe not all females, but at least some females would, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Let me know if I am. But for me personally, when I heard about the news, I was just like, what? And then I was like, I viewed it as sort of a negative thing, I wasn't like, I'm not really checking to see Ayumi Hamasaki nude photos. It's not that she's like ugly or anything or not unattractive, but I guess for me, I just don't see Ayumi in that light as a sexual person. Um, but as well, like I mentioned already, I just feel like it's kind of like desperate. It's just coming off a bit desperate. It seemed like, I don't know. I really need to talk to Ayumi's people. I really do. I need to have a conversation and just sit down and see what's going on. I mean, I'm pretty sure her people don't speak English, so I'm going to have to get a translator up in there, an interpreter to help me out. But I need to really sit down and talk with, Ayumi and her people, because it just seems like they're just making the craziest business decisions for Ayumi, and it just seems like Ayumi, while like a lot of her business decisions lately have been like, well, her career decisions at least have been sort of on autopilot. They've just been just releasing things just to release things. And now while this doesn't seem like autopilot, this seems like something totally out of the blue. Still, it's just like, what the, what the F? But at least we can say that it's like, it has artistic merit and it's being done in an artistic way, so that when people see these photos, it doesn't come off as like trashy and desperate, like, hey, look at me, I'm nude, versus like, I'm an artist and the human body is art, sort of like that. So I'm glad at least they're doing it like in an artistic way, seemingly. So I'm glad that that's happening versus like in a sexual way, which if it was in a sexual way, I think that Ayumi would pretty much fall flat and really look like a joke, probably, to be honest. No intended shade to Ayumi, but I'm not sure if she could pull that off. I'm not sure if she could pull off the sexual nude off really well. But I think I said all I have to say for the time being. I don't think I have any more to say about this particular story here. So yeah, feel free to comment, subscribe, thumbs up. It's all appreciated, definitely. Thanks a lot for watching. Adios and goodbye for now. But before I leave, I do want to kind of like clear the air a little bit, and just make sure that I come off as clearly and understood as possible. I'm not trying, like, I think there is beauty in all body types. And I'm not just saying that to be like politically correct or anything. I really do believe that. I think it's just, for me, I just can imagine Ayumi doing the nude shot in a sexual way, more so because it's Ayumi, probably. While her body may not be the most, have the most sex appeal, I think that her body could have sex appeal, especially when you kind of like do different positions here and there. So, long story short, I'm not saying that if you have a body type like Ayumi that you're not sexy and you don't have sex appeal, you know. However, people do equate sex appeal with like, having like body fat in certain places, TNA. Um, but I think that there's sex appeal in all body types. I think I really do think that, you know, and different strokes for different folks as well. So I just wanted to put that out there, make sure I didn't offend anyone because that wasn't my intention. So, again, and as well, I'm actually pretty thin myself, and sometimes I feel like that probably I could, lack sex appeal myself. So yeah. But at the end of the day, it's just other people's perceptions. It's how other people perceive you because other people be like, wow, thin bodies are really sexy. And other people are like, wow, like thin bodies are not sexy. And then on the flip side, it's like, wow, big bodies are sexy. And then on the flip side, it's like, that's not sexy. So it's just beauty is in the eye of the beholder, as well as sex appeal is in the eye of the beholder, right? So, yeah, there you go. So thanks a lot for watching.